Hi, so in this video I want to focus on one aspect of the Thirlwell inquiry about the Lucy Letby case, and that is Lucy Letby's nurse training, particularly her final placement. Now she actually failed her final placement. She did pass again on a retake, quite obviously. And it threw up a lot of interesting things. So her mentors, this was a Nicola Lightfoot and Sarah Jane Murphy. Now Nicola Lightfoot, she mentions that Lucy Letby needed, more support and prompting and supervision than someone at her stage of training really should have needed. She felt she couldn't continue to work with her because she wouldn't have been able to pass her in the time that she had left. So Sarah Jane Murphy took over. Now she describes Lucy as quiet, shy, didn't show good interpersonal skills with the children, the parents and the wider team. So it looks like Sarah Jane Murphy was willing to give Lucy Letby a few more chances, probably got on a bit better with her. And sometimes that is just the luck of the draw. When you're a student and you have a mentor, it is sometimes just a personality thing. So I'm not saying one mentor was better than another in any way at all. This is just how it panned out. So to me, this is already like screaming at me. Basically something I've mentioned in probably more than one of my videos by now. Carl Jenkins has mentioned it in a video, and that is the possibility of Lucy Letby being on the autistic spectrum somewhere. This is, very, very typical sounding. Now, does that necessarily make her innocent? No, not necessarily. But the characteristics that are described in this inquiry and what people have felt about her, it kind of has produced this bias in the media that, oh, she must be guilty. So basically I'm going to go through the list of things, each in turn, and talk about them a bit. So first of all, she was described as cold and lacking in empathy. Now this is very much of an autistic thing. So you can have autistic people who can be cold and aloof or quiet and shy, but they're not always. Sometimes they can be very sociable, but they don't get the social cues. So autistic people come in all shapes and sizes is what I'm saying. And to be cold and aloof, that is one typical aspect of it, or one typical presentation. So when autistic people, are lacking in empathy, it doesn't mean that they don't care or they want to be mean. They may be zoning out, or they just don't get it. They might not see that someone is sad or might be upset. So she certainly was picked up for not picking up on non-verbal social cues of the parents, which is so typical. So it doesn't go into too much detail, but she might not have noticed when they were showing distress, perhaps, or she might have made an inappropriate comment. That could have happened, and she could have been trying to do the right thing but not entirely picking up on the nuances. So communication does seem to have been an issue there. Now it was, they did notice, I think it was Sarah Jane Murphy who noticed that her face sometimes had an expressionless look, and other people found that awkward sometimes, and this is just so completely typical. And if you notice the mug shot, you know, the face of, the typical face of Lucy Letby, it is that very expressionless look, and that is not necessarily the face of a killer, because, I mean, look at Ted Bundy. You know, he's a very smiley killer. You know, he looks like a great guy. I think now you can look at him and see that, like, he's got dead eyes, but you wouldn't necessarily notice that straight away. But she does have this completely expressionless look, and of course when we're communicating with people, or we're in a situation where people's skills are important, then sometimes what's on our face can be important. And with autistic people, you can't always regulate what's on your face, because, you know, you could be zoning out. You know, you could have a bit too much information coming at you at any one time, or you could just not get it, or you could just be, you know, you could just have a lapse in concentration. That can happen. So there's all these reasons why you could have an expressionless face, but obviously the way things are coming out in the media, and to be fair to the Thirlwall inquiry, I think it's reasonable that everything is, you know, is being gone over, even though it does seem that a certain group of doctors are absolutely determined to insert bias into it. Some of the other people being interviewed, like Sarah Jane Murphy, and also Lucy's support worker, they seem to be very good at saying, no, this is how it was, this was my job, this was the situation, without bias. So that does appear, some things do appear to be quite fair in this. How it all pans out in the end, I don't know. It was also mentioned that she had some difficulty with retention of material, and this was specifically to do with the doses of medicines and the side effects. So there's some problem with memory there. Now obviously she worked on this, because it was mentioned that she did work on this, she worked to improve, she did improve. So that shows to me willingness to improve, willingness to do the right thing. Now I think, because what comes out in trial, and also what comes out with the police, is that she seems to remember events, you know, blow by blow, detail for detail. she seems to have this linear memory, which is so typical of autism, whereas other people, you know, if we say neurotypical people, would remember feelings, for example. It was all so fast. They might remember emotions more. But she seems to remember events, even down to the small detail. But then she has difficulty remembering other materials, like with the doses and side effects. Now, I don't know whether she might have had a problem with figures, perhaps, but there does seem to have been a problem there. It also came out that, you know, she made quite a bad error in prescribing morphine. Well, obviously she didn't prescribe, but she might have, but this was picked up, this did not happen, and obviously she had to go back to square one. Now, it kind of looks as if she did this terrible thing on the face of it, but I don't know, you know, how many other nurses in training might have done something similar. So, you know, it could either be something very, very bad and exceptional, but it could also be something that a lot of nurses, while they're still being supervised, could make equally bad errors, which then, because they got a mentor with them, you know, they notice, they stop it, and they work on making sure we don't make that error again. So I think, to be honest, because I think the way this is going to go, from some of the comments that I've seen, not necessarily on my channel, but other channels, and in the media and general comments, is, oh my God, how was she even allowed to become a nurse? I think the neurodiverse community should honestly be up in arms about this, because this has a potential to create bias against neurodiverse people. You know, should we say that, you know, if you've got any trace of autism, like, or ADHD, like, you shouldn't become a nurse because it's dangerous? Well, you definitely shouldn't become a doctor, because that's even more dangerous. You shouldn't, I don't know, work in teaching or with children, because you could harm people. You shouldn't work in care, because, you know, you could harm an elderly person. You shouldn't work in hospitality, because you could put the wrong ingredients in a rice pudding, and, you know, you shouldn't be allowed to drive a car because you could get distracted by a shiny thing, you know. But, you know, on a more serious note, I think anyone following this who is neurodiverse in any way, I think really you should get up and comment very loud and clear, you know, form a group, whatever, because some of this commenting really is not okay. I think it does have the potential to create a bias against anyone who is neurodiverse, especially as a lot of adults, if they haven't been diagnosed as children, they're not going to get diagnosed, so they're living with a lot of prejudice, and something like this could be even more prejudicial, basically. So yeah, that was that. Please like, subscribe, and hope to see you in the next video.